want to be doing stuff, but you can't really predict if that stuff will happen, really.
Yeah, and I know that you've got so many exciting, fun plans for the future for UNTP
Yeah,
on the entertainment side of things. But in the short term future, there is no CBA yet. You don't
yeah,
know where you're going to be playing in 2026. You don't even know if you're going to be playing in 2026.
yeah.
Put us in that mindset that you are in right now with so many things that are up in the air.
I'm a person, I've lived my life on just like faith and trusting that what's meant for me is gonna happen. I don't have a reporter asked me not long ago, like, are you stressed? What's your level of stress regarding the CBA? And I'm like, look, I've been hanging on by a thread in the W for years now. I thought it was over after the pandemic, after the bubble season. So I've been fortunate and blessed to be around this long. Like, I think I just want to see the players fight for, what we feel we've earned and what we deserve at this point. And hopefully an agreement is on the way soon. Because I know, like, we want to play. People want to see us play. But I think you can't fault people. And I think that if our league didn't look the way we did, a lot of things, like a lot wouldn't be said about us fighting for what we feel we deserve. But I think a lot of people, especially when it comes to women, people just don't think that we should be saying that we deserve something. And so I want to see our young players in this league, the people who've been around and, help get the league to where.
First, what Sydney Colson said in principle, players should fight for what they've earned, younger players should understand the CBA process, middle-tier veterans get squeezed, is not radical. That's standard union logic. Educating rookies about how revenue splits, salary caps, and roster protections work is not inherently controversial. In fact, it's responsible. Where things escalated was the framing when she suggested that criticism of WNBA players pushing for more is rooted in people being uncomfortable with women saying they deserve something. That shifted the tone. Because while gender bias absolutely exists in sports discourse, there is also a very real financial conversation happening. The league's long-term profitability questions aren't invented by haters. They're documented business realities. Owners have historically operated at losses with the belief that long-term growth will justify it.so when someone raises sustainability concerns and gets categorized as opposing women being paid. That feels, to many critics, like a deflection rather than an engagement with the numbers. Two things can be true at once: women deserve fair compensation, and a league that has struggled financially for decades has structural constraints. Ignoring one side of that equation doesn't make it disappear. The Indiana Fever angle complicates this further. Indiana Fever became the most commercially relevant team in the league largely because of Caitlin Clark's arrival. That's not an insult to other players, it's observable in ratings, attendance, and merchandise spikes. The current leverage in CBA talks is happening during a moment of unprecedented visibility, and Clark is central to that visibility. When that context isn't acknowledged, fans notice, then there's the internal contradiction people picked up on. Advocating for solidarity while mentioning specific players' contracts, like referencing Katie Lou Samuelson collecting checks, muddies the message. Collective bargaining messaging usually avoids singling out individuals. Once you do that, it feels less like systemic critique and more like personal grievance, even if that wasn't the intent. Now, the strategic question you're circling is the hardest one. Timing. Colson has openly described herself as being on the fringe, coming off injury, fighting for roster security. In a 12-team league with tight rotations, front offices weigh everything: production, health, fit, and yes, potential distractions. Publicly positioning yourself as an organizer and vocal critic during delicate negotiations can be read as leadership by some and as added complexity by others. Teams don't evaluate morality, they evaluate risk and value. That doesn't mean she was wrong to speak. Players have every right to advocate for their interests. But rights and consequences operate on separate tracks. In a league where the 11th or 12th roster spot can hinge on marginal differences, perception matters. What makes this moment uncomfortable is that it sits at the intersection of principle and pragmatism. From a labor perspective, middle-tier voices often push hardest because they feel the squeeze most directly. From a career survival perspective, being the loudest voice when your own contract isn't secure is undeniably a gamble. The CBA will get resolved. That's how these things work. Compromise will happen. The season will move forward. The quieter question is what happens when roster meetings begin and decision makers weigh not just talent, but total package. That's not dramatic. It's just how professional sports operate. Speaking your mind is a choice. So is how teams respond to it.